Hey guys, Ben here with Oddly Armed, and today we're going to be doing another field strip video, this time of the Sig MCX Virtus. Now this one's going to have my Rattler upper on it, not my standard 11.5 inch, and that's really just because this is going to be a little bit easier to handle and less to have to deal with taking it down. But it all works essentially the same way, so let's go ahead and jump in there and get a close look at it. And starting out the field strip on the MCX, it's basically going to be the same as a standard AR-15. So we'll go ahead and pop our mag out. Already got the rear pins started here. We got basically the same exact positioning as on an AR-15, so I'll go ahead and pop that through. And it's a little bit tight on here. Now we'll go ahead and pivot our upper and lower apart, and then I'll also pop out the front pivot pin. It's a little bit tight. And now we'll separate our upper and lower receiver on the MCX. Looking at just the lower receiver, there's not a whole lot to see here. On the inside, it's pretty much identical to the AR-15, except for in the back, of course, we don't have a buffer spring or buffer tube, so that's completely unnecessary in the back here. But looking in the trigger group, you have some nice beveling into the trigger well there. You can go ahead and drop the hammer there, give you a look inside. It's a little bit dirty, so sorry about that. But as far as that goes, that's basically it. This pistol grip has a storage compartment on the bottom. Then we have our folding telescoping stock on here. This is my favorite stock for anything that uses a pick rail. But yeah, that's pretty much all there is to see with the lower receiver. Now on to the upper receiver. Our first step is going to be popping out that bolt carrier group. And we'll go ahead and just pull it straight out the back, and that's what we have there. Charging handle for this will also just pop straight out of the back of the receiver, basically the same as the AR-15 as well. Now, while we have it apart here, I wanted to go ahead and show you the difference between the Rattler and its recoil assembly here on the top and the full-size Virtus and its recoil assembly. So as you can see, these are the pretty much identical bolt carrier groups. As far as the recoil springs, the bolt carrier, as well as the bolts go. The only difference is going to be up here with this protrusion, which interacts with the gas piston that we're going to be taking a look at in a minute at the front of the rifle. So if you want to switch your Virtus between a 5.5 inch Rattler barrel and a MCX 11.5 inch barrel, you can do it with the Rattler upper receiver, but since it's shorter, you need to get the new recoil assembly for that. All right, so the next step in disassembling our bolt carrier group is going to be taking out our firing pin retaining pin, and we can see it on the right side here. I'm just going to take a bullet and press that through, and that'll pop out the other side here, and you can see that is actually captured, which I think is a great improvement over the AR-15. And then we're going to take out our firing pin. Now there is a firing pin safety in there, so you can kind of see it right there. So you'll need to press that in to allow the firing pin to drop out the back. And there we go. So we have our firing pin and our firing pin spring. So those will pull out the back of the bolt carrier. And then coming around back to the top, we have a cam pin, just standard AR-15 style. So you'll want the bolt back here to give you room to work around your springs here. So it's a little bit tight, and that's going to be the most difficult part of disassembling this, but eventually they'll go ahead and pop out, at which point your bolt will just pop straight out the front of the bolt carrier group. And we'll just take a quick look at the bolt here. So you can see it's standard AR-15. We have the standard AR extractor as well as an ejector, plunger ejector in there. And then the bolt lugs on the MCX series are actually rounded off, so that's to help with rigidity over time. Bolt lugs are one area where you can see cracks and failures on an AR-15, and by tapering those, that actually is supposed to help over time with the durability. Briefly going back to our bolt carrier group, you can remove the recoil spring assembly here. And it's not too difficult to do. You can see there is a pin underneath right here on this little block in the recoil assembly. And what that does is allows you to pop out your firing pin safety here. So that's basically so you don't get slam fire with it when the bolt goes home. But that'll pop out, and then you can slide the recoil assembly out the side here. Now for just a standard field stripping, I would not recommend doing it. That pin's pretty small and pretty easy to lose, so this is about as far as you need to take it down. And getting back to the upper receiver, the next step is going to be taking off our handguard. So the handguard is actually held on using the front pivot pin, so you can kind of see that there. So as soon as you pop that pivot pin out, you can press forward and your handguard will pop off the front there. So I'll just grab it, and then you can kind of see it runs on rails in here. And then there's that little loop that goes in between the front pivot pin holes up in the front here. That'll pop off, which will just reveal our barrel assembly at the front of the rifle. So it's not necessary to take off the barrel for just your standard field stripping, but for the point of this video, I'm gonna go ahead and do it. So you can see there are two screws here that basically clamshell around the receiver here. So these put pressure on the receiver and retain the barrel. So what you go ahead and do is you back these screws out. This is with a T25 Torx wrench, which I just dropped. So we'll go ahead and back those out a little bit. So you just back out both of them until, and bear with me here, this one's a little bit tight. There we go, get it started. And we'll just go ahead and screw those out to the point where that clamshell opens up enough to release our barrel. So that should be good there. So you can kind of see how it clamps around the base of the barrel here. And when you pull that out enough, your barrel can pop out. So you can get a good look at that mechanism and how that tightens in on the barrel and holds it in place. So there is our barrel assembly outside of the receiver. And let's just take a quick look at the receiver itself. So you can see in the back here, you have our forward assist, and this is removable through two screws on the bottom here. So you can either replace this with another forward assist if you break it, or there's also a forward assist delete for this. And this also holds in your dust cover, so you can remove it out the back there. And on the inside, it's a little bit dirty in here, but you can kind of see some of those contours I was talking about in the review video, where it's a little bit difficult to get in there and clean those areas. But for the most part, this isn't a difficult to clean receiver. I believe it is forged 7075 aluminum, not 100% on that. But this kind of gives you a good idea on how it goes together. And then the front here, you can see our feed ramps is actually a separate part. So if that gets damaged, you can take that out and replace it. So that just kind of adds to the overall durability and the maintenance cycle on this rifle. And the last step in our disassembly is going to be taking out our gas piston system. So to get that out, there's a little plunger here at the front of the gas block. So you're going to press that in and then rotate our gas plug until it's basically upside down from where it originally is, and it'll pop outside or pop out the front of the gas block. And we'll take a look at that in a minute. And then I would recommend just getting like a bullet or something, casing, and pressing the back. It's a little bit tight here of the piston, and that'll pop out eventually the front of the gas block as well. So you can see on the Rattler, we have a tiny little piston. It's going to be quite a bit longer on the full-size rifle. So we can see that. And then just going back to the gas plug real quick, you can see we have two gas holes here. So that's going to be your adverse, and that's going to be your normal setting. And for your barrel, at this point, it's pretty much just going to be your empty gas block up there. And that is basically it for the field stripping of the MCX. So thank you for coming along and checking it out. Pretty easy gun to field strip and maintain, but I'm going to be having more videos coming out in the near future on other rifles, tier listings, as well as disassembly videos. So keep an eye out for that. Thank you for the support, and please like, share, and subscribe.